lot of people are kind of missing the opportunity. And I think that, you know, oh geez, give me 1 second here. Okay, let's see if she's in it. I think she found the link finally. Oh my gosh. Oh, there she is. She's here. She's here. She's here. Michelle Martin. How you doing, Michelle? Can you hear me?
How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. I was just talking to the students a second ago about technology and how there's so much money being made on technology and so many businesses being built off of tech.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are kind of missing out on that, you know, when they ignore technology or they only use it just
Our community.
Yeah, just to you know, if you use it just to socialize, you're gonna kind of miss out on the fact that it's also being used to do business. But before I jump into all that, first I want to ask, how you doing today?
I'm good. I just started homeschooling, so I'm a brand new homeschooling mom. And listen, homeschooling is absolutely not for the faint of heart. And I'm not even doing real homeschooling. Like, I'm cheating with cyber, like, virtual school. Man, listen.
Well, you know, it's hard work, and it's funny, when I was in Boise with all the white people this week, and I met these two random people. Right, I got done. We were playing bubble soccer, and if y'all don't know about bubble soccer, it's like a weird game where you put this big bubble over your body, and you're running around with this bubble, and you're bumping into people as you're kicking the soccer ball. Yeah. And I enjoyed that for about 8 minutes. And then I got tired. I was like, oof, because I forgot the altitude is high in Boise. So I started getting tired. I was like, why am I out of breath? Like, I've been running. I shouldn't be out of breath. But I went and I sat down, and I'm kind of tired. I'm sitting next to this blonde white lady. And you know, we're just kind of laughing. I said, oof, I'm tired. And she said, I'm tired too. And we started talking, and her husband came up, and it turned out that these two were Mormons. One was from Utah. One was from, I forgot where he's from. He wasn't from Utah. And so, you know, we're talking, and it's weird. It was interesting for me. I don't have that many conversations with people who are not black. I ain't gonna lie. So
I know this, right? I know this.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you know, you feel kind of, you know, you kind of are looking for people to kind of talk to you different because you're black. And then they ask, well, what, you know, I asked them about their business. They told me, and then they asked about mine. I said, well, I run something called the Black Business School. And I'm looking at their facial expression like, okay, is this gonna make you scared now? You think I hate white people? You know, but they didn't. They were totally relaxed and cool. And in fact, the lady said something really funny. She said, I don't understand racism. She said, because I just love black people. It was like that. Isn't that funny, right? I'll let y'all interpret that. But anyway,
that's how you know they racist.
I know, right? I know. So anyway, but here's the funny thing though. The lady and her husband were both young. I think the wife was like 27, 28. Husband was maybe 30 max. And they'd created this online platform called the Beach House. And I just thought, oh, okay, yeah, their last names happen to be Beach. And he said, so tell me about it. I looked at their, you know, they were telling me about their business, and I looked up their YouTube channel, and they had like 350,000 subscribers. One of their videos had 18 million views. And I said, wow, this is good. And so we talked for over an hour, and the husband was telling me how he quit his job because they were making so much money from the Beach House. And then I talked to you. And I said, yeah, I met these two really nice white people today. And they were, I know I sound terrible, don't I? But I don't care. I'm going to be real. But
there's a lot of reverse racism going on up in here.
I know, it's crazy. But you know what? This is my house. So I can act like I can be the Archie Bunker up in this bitch if I want to. But anyway, no, but in all seriousness, though, I said, I met these really nice people, and they run this platform called the Beach House. And you're like, oh yeah, my kids, my daughters, they love the Beach House. They watch the beach. And then I talked to somebody else, and she said the same thing. She said, oh yeah, the kids love the Beach House. So they literally had this platform, and I talked to them for an hour, had no idea what they did. And they had this platform that, you know, was like making them tons of money. Like, I think they make $30,000-$40,000 a month just on the advertising alone. And what I really saw there, and they weren't the only ones, there were other people there that I'd seen before doing stuff online, like a guy named JP Sears. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's a white dude.
Yeah, I have.
And he does the funniest videos. Videos get millions of views. And I even, you know, I wanted to meet him because I love his stuff. I think it's really good. And it just kind of made me think about just how much is happening in technology where people are building whole empires off this. They're building, careers. They're becoming famous. They were all talking about the corporate deals that they're doing, making millions of dollars. And, and I feel bad, when you see all that happening and you see a lot of people that are just like, oh, I just want to go to work. I just want to give me a job and go to work. It kind of makes me feel bad because you're kind of missing out, not just on the money, but you're missing out on a lot of the fun. There's a lot of fun happening with technology, and it's wide open as it's ever been. So anyway, that kind of gets our conversation started. Michelle, I want to kind of start by asking you, how would you describe yourself? I know you're the CEO of Hey Mommy, MOMI. I know that you have your children, and I know that you do a lot of great things in business. But how do you describe yourself in terms of your history with tech and who you are as an entrepreneur?
I would say that I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. And that's just someone who, even if something doesn't work out, just kind of, pick myself up, dust myself off, and try a different type of technology or whatever it is. I just try again. I'm also the COO of a nonprofit organization, which I do not recommend that anyone starts a nonprofit. I've been doing it for 20 years and there's nothing lucrative about it. And it's just kind of old school, right? It's old school. So when I think about like myself in technology, I think I'm a self-made like serial entrepreneur. So I love technology. I have two phones. I have a Android and I have an iPhone just because I like to see what apps are available on each. They're all different and how, each of them work. I prefer Android because it's a more techie, geeky type of phone, where iPhone, I like to say it's just iSimple for simple folks, right? But they do sometimes have the better apps. So I'll describe myself as that entrepreneur who is constantly evolving, and I'm a self-learner. I'm constantly looking to see like what's going on in the world of technology, and not just in the United States. I look and see what's going on around the world constantly, because China is really huge and they have a lot of great things going on. So I always keep my eye on China to see what they're doing, because once they do it, then we get it. It's not the other way around.
Wow, that's so interesting. There's so many things you said that were so thought-provoking. Let me start with what you said about nonprofits. Now, you have a great nonprofit that a lot of people respect, that has done a lot of great work in the world for a long time, the Urban Youth Racing School in Philadelphia. And you've had a lot of success with it. A lot of people love it. Why would you say that, starting a nonprofit is, a method of doing business that you wouldn't do if you could do it all over again?
Because you never own a nonprofit. A nonprofit is not a way for you to build wealth, right? A nonprofit is not something that you could technically pass down to a family member. A nonprofit, when we look at nonprofits, let's think about Dick Gregory and his nonprofit. Do you guys remember that? Do you remember Dick Gregory's nonprofit? It was really successful. He was doing a lot of great things. His own board took him off of his own board literally kicked him out of his nonprofit. There's no protection because it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the government. The government is allowing you to run this tax, this business that's basically based off of other folks getting tax write-offs. So you do the work, you have to stick to your mission, right? When you don't stick to your mission, you're out of there. They find so many ways to kind of undo your nonprofit, especially for our community. That's why nonprofits in our community don't last a long time. We've been around for 20 years, but it's because we understand relationships, right? And we had a different type of nonprofit. The other issue with nonprofits is that everybody is fighting for the same crumbs that are left on the table, right? So everybody's trying to write grants. And if you're in a particular city, if you're in any city, everybody's going for the same amount of money. There's not really a whole lot of creativity. Everything's kind of the same. It just makes it hard to even, to make a living, off of a nonprofit if it's your nonprofit. Now, if you go and work for a huge nonprofit like the Red Cross, who steals everybody's money, right? I just had to throw that in, right? Planned Parenthood, right? Then yeah, you're going to go in there, but they're not, the biggest thing with the nonprofits that they're attacking is what the CEOs make, because they're becoming millionaires off of it, but they would never allow our community to do that. The IRS comes, matter of fact, I got audited in 2015. I got audited. The IRS came in, they were in my office for a week, right? And they they looked through my records, sat with my accountant, CPA, my finance people, and, you know, basically told me what to do, how to do it, what not to do. And I was like really curious. And I had to ask him, I said, listen, so when it comes to nonprofits that are ran by folks that are not minorities, are you guys so stringent on, you know, I mean, it was down to the mileage that was put on the car for the nonprofit. Like, they looked into my insurance. They looked into everything. Like, you know, they dove in deep. They didn't find anything because my books are always straight. They didn't find anything. So they kind of went off and looked into other things.
Wow. That sounds kind of terrible. I mean, you know, I never really wanted to go into a nonprofit because I always thought that it was just a business model that seemed to be involve a lot of bureaucracy that I didn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Also, I just try to minimize my interactions with the police and the government. You know, I mean, not to say that I would ever break the law. I don't plan on it, but I don't, you know, if you mix it up with a cop and you get into an argument or it becomes physical, you're going to go to jail. You can go to prison for years. So I don't really engage with cops. And the same thing with the government. The government has all the power and they can destroy you. I know smart, good people who got years in prison, taken away from their families and everything because they mismanaged a grant, or they had a nonprofit and did something, you know, with the money that wasn't legal, you know. And so I was curious to get your take on that. Now, let me ask you this. Let's talk about technology a little bit. How did you get started in tech? I mean, what was your first, you know, especially with the .com stuff and all that? How far does that go back for you?
It goes back to 1997. 1997, I started my first business, and I never went to school for anything having to do with technology, but I also understood that there was this thing called the computer that was pretty new to everybody, like back in 1998. And I was like, wow, this thing is cool. So I was able to kind of partner with someone, and we started a business called Star Shooters, and it was like multimedia. So I did graphic design. Back then I was doing websites, shooting commercials. We were trying to do as many things digitally as possible. And it was a little difficult back then because you don't have all the technology you have now. Right now, you could basically, you know, record a movie or a commercial on your phone, right? You can do things like that. You could do video and it looks great. But back then, you know, you didn't have that capability. You had to buy the actual equipment to do all of that kind of stuff. So that was how I got started. That was like my first take, you know, with technology and really how powerful it was. So I started snatching up .coms back then, not really understanding what I was doing, but just buying them just because I thought, you know, someday somebody's going to want it and they're going to have to, you know, pay me for it.
Okay. So just so people kind of know and understand your background and show that respect, my question is, you know, can you talk a little bit about the kind of money you were able to make, you know, even at an early age, even in your 20s, you know, as sort of an early pioneer in .com stuff? Not the exact amounts, but just maybe close ballpark.
So I think I was 25 when I first started. So I remember my first month in business, like when I was actually in business, like, you know, we had clients and customers, and we made $50,000 that first month in business. And it was just, you know, it was just graphic design. It was just people coming in, using the computers, wanting to get flyers designed, wanting to get some websites done. And then some months I would make as much as $100,000, but simply because I could charge a whole lot back then for a website. Like back then, it wasn't nothing to charge somebody $30,000 to build a website, right?
Wow. Are you kidding me? Wow.
Yeah, it was simple to charge them $30,000 because nobody knew any better, and the tools weren't out there. There wasn't Wix and there wasn't WordPress the way that it is now. you know, for you to be able to kind of do those things yourself. You literally had to go to a professional if you weren't a professional. Like you had to really know how to code and, you know, and do all those things. I didn't know how to do it, but I was smart enough to build a team that did know how to do it.
Well, you know, that's something I was talking to Andre Hatchett about just now from the blackrealestateschool.com. You know, I was telling him that when I was hanging out with the white people in Boise, which I don't regret, it was a good experience. You know, I learned more than how to play bubble soccer. I saw this guy, and it's not that I'm learning these things. I mean, you know, I've taught people who were not black for a long time. So I've seen all the different ways they're making money, but I like to be in that space to just see what people are doing on the cutting edge. And the person who was holding the event was a guy named Russell Brunson, who started ClickFunnels. And Russell, I don't know how old he is, but I think he's like 34, something like that.
He's pretty young.
He's a young dude, and he doesn't know anything about computer technology, but he knows how to hire people who do. And he created ClickFunnels, and he made, in 3 years, ready for this, y'all? He made $100 million in 3 years.
Yeah, he did.
3 years, and with his college buddies. And when I see that kind of stuff, I'm sitting there thinking, you know, black kids can do the same thing. You know, and I see some people that are doing that. I see some people that are paying attention to the tech, like well, obviously like yourself, but also Sharif Abdul Malik, who created WeBuyBlack.com. He's also coming to the All Black National Convention. I know you are, and then he is as well. Excuse me. I talked to another brother from Nigeria right before this who said, you know, he'd come up to me when we were in DC, and he said, you know, Dr. Boyce, I did everything that you told us to do in class, and we made $250,000 our first year. And now, you know, and I think it's doubled the second year. He says, now I want to go completely digital, and I believe I can make millions of dollars doing this. And it's exciting to see, you know, young black men thinking that way, you know, knowing the possibilities that are out there and letting go of the old stuff, you know, like the sports and hip hop, and they ain't a whole lot of money in entertainment. In fact, I want to ask you about that.
You can integrate it though. You can find different ways to creatively integrate it.
That's true. And in fact, I'm going to shut up because you know more about entertainment than I do. You know a lot of. It's so funny, y'all. I'm not going to tell all her business, but you know, I'll bring up somebody, some mega celebrity person that you know that you've seen on TV for a long time, LL Cool J or somebody, and then Michelle will casually say, "Yeah, we had that lunch that one time, and he was in a bad mood that day." And I'll be like, "Wait a minute, you ate lunch with him? What are you talking about?" You know, and she doesn't brag about it because she's not a cocky person, but it's kind of hilarious. So let me ask you this: instead of us sort of abandoning entertainment and throwing it out the window, you talked about mixing it together, and I want to hear more about your thoughts on that, because you know Ryan Leslie, for example, has done a great job. I think he's probably made millions of dollars integrating tech into his business model. And so can you kind of speak to that in terms of like your perspective on entertainment, where it was, where it's going, and how tech kind of fits into that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because that's literally how I built my first business, was based off of entertainment. So I started my business at the time where independent artists weren't really a thing, right? They were starting to come out, but they didn't have the money that the labels had or that the movie houses had. So if you were doing an independent film, how would you look like if you were making a huge regular, you know, big film from Lionsgate or MGM? You wanted that feel and look. So what I did was I created a one-stop shop for all of these folks in the entertainment industry, from music, film, and I dealt with a lot of agencies. They would come to me. And so independent artists, I would do their photo shoots. We would do all of their graphic design. We would do their website. It got down to the point where once they finished mixing and mastering their music, they would give me the DVDs. I would send it somewhere to get the copies done. But I would make them look like they were coming out of a label, which made them gain more street credibility, and the label started to look at them differently. I did the same thing with movies. So I couldn't sing. I didn't make movies. I couldn't do any of that, but I still found a way, you know, using what they needed and using technology to give them what they needed. Right. So I had to kind of meet them where they were at, because I knew them all. It was kind of like my circle. It was the world that I was in. But like I said, I didn't do any of that, but I still knew that there was a way to make money. I just had to get creative. And that's when I started Star Shooters. And that's why it's called Star Shooters, because I had everything in there. I had an editing suite. I had I had an editing suite. I had a recording studio. I had an Avid editing studio, which back in those days, that's the only way that they edited movies.
Mm.
And then I had like a slew of nothing but freelance graphic designers. So everybody in my place was freelance. I really didn't have any employees. They got paid by piecework and just kept it moving. They were all young kids. The energy was like really vibrant. So, you know, I would say you don't abandon like entertainment. You find a way, look at the technology, look at your capabilities, what you can do, how can you build a team, and you find a way to get, you know, take that entertainment, get the technology and see how you can merge it so that it best fits whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Mm. Everybody who's watching, I'm talking to Michelle Martin. Michelle Martin is the CEO of the company Hey Mommy, Heymomi. That's an I, not a Y, Momi. Go find her on Facebook and at least give her, you know, hit the like button and stuff like that. And also, she is a co-founder of the Urban Youth Racing School in Philadelphia, which has helped a lot of kids learn technology and STEM and everything else. And then last but not least, she has an extensive history in tech. She was actually making money as one of the first tech entrepreneurs that was succeeding and doing well. And what I really like about your story that you tell, Michelle, is that, you know, you talk about sort of being, you know, young and having fun with your friends and making business kind of part of that. You know what I mean? Like you said, the energy was really good, and you know, and you could have done other things. I imagine, right? Like you could have, you know, got a 9 to 5. You could have worked at the grocery store, or
I knew a 9 to 5 was not for me.
Really?
I knew it was not for me. I feel like I'm a spirit child or something, you know, I'm a free spirit. And I did try, don't get me wrong. I was a dental technician, like at 21 years old. And one thing I'm whatever I do, because I'm a different type of learner. And one thing I did when I was young, first of all, I had children when I was young. So life got really serious for me. I didn't have time to play games, right? And so I had to like really look in my mirror and be honest with myself. You know, what is the best way that I learn? Am I going to waste time, you know, going to school? Do I have that kind of time? Because I still have these children that I have to take care of. I had 2 little boys at the time, by the time I was 21. So I decided that I did try that route, and I became a dental technician. And then I hated it. I hated the fact that I worked in like this factory setting, the fact that there were no windows. People worked there 40 years and everybody looked like zombies. I'm very outspoken. You know, I'm like a ball of sunshine. And every time I would go in there, I would get so depressed that I wanted to cry. And I would come home and literally cry. And I remember one night, my son, he must have been around 4. No, he was 5 because he was in kindergarten. And he said, "Mommy, why are you crying?" And I said, "Well, because I'm crying because I'm not happy where I'm at." He said, "Well, you always tell me to just do what makes me happy. Then you should quit. Will quitting make you happy?" And I said, "Well, I can't just quit." But I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I did quit. You know, I quit and I sued them, which gave me the first money. And I took them, you know, I sued them because they didn't want to pay me what I was worth. I won, and I took that money, and I flipped that entire check into my first business. Wow.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history.
Wow. Yeah. That's really cool. That's a really cool story. I mean, you know, because there are a lot of people that will go through stuff and kind of just feel powerless, or I guess complain about it. I sat down, I went to visit one of my good friends in New York one time, and I remember sitting there, and one of his friends came by. And this poor lady had a job at some university. It was an administrative job. And somehow she was mad because a white lady had took her folder. Literally, something like that. So she starts saying, "Yeah, let me tell you, you know, y'all black, a lot of y'all on here are black. Y'all know what I'm talking about. When you go home and you complain, let me tell you what those white people did on my job. Y'all know what I'm talking about." So she was doing it. She's like, "There's this white lady, and she took my folder, and then she gonna lie and act like she ain't got my folder." And I told her, I said, "Bitch, I know you got my folder." And she's like, "I don't have your folder." So we're all like, "Oh, okay. So the white lady took your folder. Wow, that's terrible. It must have been an important folder." Then we start talking about something else. And then it gets back around to her, and she starts saying, yeah, and just like that white lady who took my folder, I can't stand that lady. And I kid you not, for the next 3 hours, this lady, all she kept, every topic, it didn't matter. We could be talking about science, it would go back to the white lady in the folder. We talk about the origins of the universe, because it was a deep conference. Smart people with it. It would come back to the white lady in her folder. We talk about politics. President Obama, is he doing a good job or not? It came back to the white lady in a folder, and it spilled to the next day. The lady came in, started talking about this. I talked to the white lady again today about my folder. I'm like, God damn, what the? Are you serious right now?
Yeah, she'd have been mad what they did to me, because like I remember I was 21 and I had just became the manager of a certain department, right? Because I was the only one who knew on the East Coast who knew how to do the particular dental work that I did. And this is I was a dental tech. So I'm watching everything come in. I'm watching all these machines and all this stuff come in. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm going to get a raise, right? Because you think if you get a promotion, that comes with a raise. And so they're like, oh, we're going to talk to you when it's time for you to get your evaluation. So everybody's getting their evaluation around me. Mind you, I'm working with just Asians and whites, right? And so everybody's getting their evaluation. So I said, all right, cool. So I get called outside to the parking lot. My manager, who was the senior vice president of this particular company, was smoking a cigar. And he was like, oh, I wanted to talk to you outside. I said, oh, okay, cool. So he said, Michelle, I'm so happy that, that we're opening this department. You're going to allow us to make more money, and it's going to make everything more efficient because we no longer have to outsource this stuff. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, woo, woo, okay, great, right? So he goes, but, we don't really have the money to give you a raise because, we just paved the parking lot. I said, what? I said, you just paved. So what they got to do with my money, right? And he was like, so we don't really have that in a budget right now to give you a raise. And I was furious. And I'm trying to keep my composure. But then he finishes it with, but I just want you to know that we're going to look out for you. Oh, and by the way, this was your evaluation. I said, what? I said, first of all, I'm not even good enough to evaluate in an office like a decent human being. I got you. Mm. I said, and I went home and cried, right? Because I was so angry. I had to compose myself because I was really going to jack this old white man up, right? So I went home, and that's when my son, who is now 28 years old, was like, Mommy, just quit. Just go be happy. You always tell me to do what I want to be happy. He said, if I want juice, if juice makes me happy, you tell me to go get juice. And it was cute in the moment, but I'm looking at him like, dude, you can't compare your juice to my life, right? So I wrote a resignation letter and I handed it to him the next day. He balled it up and it almost hit me as I walked out the door. And so I gave him 2 weeks notice. And he was like, when he balled it up and threw it, he said, you don't need 2 weeks. You could leave today. I said, but you're going to have to pay me for 2 weeks because I've given you this notice. So it's not like I quit. I'm giving you 2 weeks notice. So I left. He still had to give me the money, right? Because a lot of people don't understand the handbook. You got to read the handbook and their policies. You fight them by their own shit, right? So, and I'm 21 at this time. So I go and I go home and I open the yellow pages, which were around back then, a big, thick book, right? And I found a lawyer. And I didn't even know what type of lawyer I was looking for. I called him and he said, you don't want me. He pointed me in the right direction, sent me to the EEOC, and the rest is history. We were in there battling it out for 8 months before they ended up having to pay me. Having to pay me and to send any future employer a letter of recommendation. So even though I knew I was never going to get a job, my petty sent them to send recommendations to different folks.
Oh my gosh, that is so great. That is a great story. I love it. I mean, I think it's a great example of winning in the workplace. I can't say I know when I quit Syracuse, I couldn't really. I mean, I looked at the lawsuits and everything, and I remember thinking, in that case, I read a story about a professor that was black like me in the 1970s who happened to teach at the University of Kentucky where I went to college. And his case took so long that he didn't win his case until he was like about 2 years from his death when he was 78 years old. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in court with these people. But I do think that, fighting back is better than just beating up on yourself and complaining and being upset. And the reason I brought up the lady with the folder, and the white lady, who kept taking her folder, is because I kind of remember thinking, you're obsessed with this lady. Like, you're not even a good friend right now to the people here, because you can't have a normal conversation because all you keep talking about is this white lady and her folder. You sound like a crazy person right now.
But imagine all the energy that she exhausted just giving this woman all of her energy over a folder. And if she would have taken that, and I think that's where I stopped and really thought about it. When I sat there and my son was watching me cry, right? I thought, am I going to come home every night and cry? Which equates to, is this damn lady going to sit up here and talk about this folder every damn day? And I said, no, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm not going to do that to my children. I deserve better. They deserve better. And I deserve to be treated like a human being in the workplace. But that just jaded me against any job. It was hard. I couldn't take a job after that.
Wow.
I knew then that I was not cut out to work, because I would jack somebody. Like, y'all Puerto Rican, I'll cut you.
Not that all Puerto Ricans will cut people, but hey.
So I just couldn't do it.
Stereotypes work, but not for everybody. But
right.
Sometimes I am a walking stereotype. It depends on the day of the week. Well, let me tell everybody who's here. I'm talking to Michelle Martin. She's the CEO of Hey Mommy. She's also the founder of the Urban Youth Racing School, and she is actually a techpreneur who has a lot to share and stuff like that. And I want everybody to know who's in the class. There are about 40 of you who are actually here in the class. You guys, when you put your questions up, I will see your questions. If you're not in the class, I can't see the questions, so I can't answer everything. But also, if you want to come to the All Black National Convention and meet Michelle and other people like her, Andre Hatchett, Jay Morrison, etc., you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. The goal of the convention is not just we're not getting together just to complain about racism. Our goal is to create power, to mobilize, activate, elevate, and really build the future that we want to see. We want to see a future where we're educating our own kids. We want to see a future where we're creating our own jobs. We want to see a future where we're supporting Black businesses. So everything at the convention is centered around that. And if you're in the crowd of the convention, what happens is you're going to get a certain kind of energy and interaction with people that think like you. So whether you're there looking for a business partner or looking for a spouse, you're going to find people there who think that way. So that's why the convention exists, and that's why I hope that you guys will come out. So if you want to buy a ticket now, you can get them discounted online at allblacknationalconvention.com. If you can't make it for whatever reason and you want to do the digital side, you can go to abncdigital.com, abncdigital.com. You can actually get the digital download for free by doing the 30-day free trial in the ABNC Builders Network. So the Builders Network is where we're taking the ideas and the energy from the convention and translating that into action. That's where we're building and creating things. In the ABNC digital package, you also get to see the entire 2016 convention. You can watch all the panels and keynotes and everything. So much learning. You get to watch the entire forum I did with Minister Farrakhan, where we broke down a lot of things over a 3-hour period. You get to see the things I did with Cornel West. You get to see the live stream of this convention. You can get that all for free with the 30-day free trial. And then if you'd like to stay in the focus group, you can, because we're not just talking, we're actually building, developing, and creating. So Michelle, let me ask you this. All right, so when you talk about technology, let
me say something real quick.
Oh,
I look at the All Black National Convention as an extension of the Black Business School, right? In a sense where the Black Business School is like a university, a college type of deal. And you send your children, to college, not just for the education, but for the networking, the resources, and the different people that are there and picking up the different energy. So when I think about how I sent my son to Howard University, it wasn't just for him to go there and get good grades, right? It was for him to go there and, begin to build a network. So that's what I look at the All Black National Convention as, being around a bunch of like-minded folks, right? Who want the same things you want. So they're only going to push you, right? If you feel like you don't have that little bit of extra energy that you need, a place like the All Black National Convention is important because that energy fuels you and it feeds you, and you don't ever know like what it's going to kick off and what it's going to start.
You know, and I agree with you. It's funny, you know, you said you see the convention as a, or excuse me, you see the business school as an extension of the convention. I will say that as far as like the design, you know, wait, you said you see, sorry, you said you see the convention as an extension of business school.
Right.
It's kind of funny because I actually saw it kind of in the opposite direction, where I saw the business school as an extension of the convention, in the sense that everything that we build and do is part of some sort of ecosystem, some sort of action plan. And so in a way, it might be just a recursive symbiotic relationship where the business school is the primary sponsor for the convention, right? And that's why, you know, that's why we don't want corporate sponsors. That's why we have to create products and sell things so that we can finance the convention. Because the convention and live events, they're not big money makers. You know, we spend a lot of money and we'll make some of the money, most of the money back. Sometimes we lose money, but we have things like the Black Business School, or if I'm pitching a book, etc. That money's going right back into implementing action plans that are going to allow us to do certain things. So in a way, the business school might be a sibling of the convention. But really, at the end of the day, what's the goal of the convention? The goal of the convention is to have an action plan that builds the future that Black people want to see. What does that future look like? It's one where we are financially literate and educated on business and all the things that matter to us. Well, we've got faculty in the Black Business School who are teaching that, right? It's a future where we're educating our own kids. Well, we've got education experts right now developing plans for Black homeschooling networks and other ways to educate our own kids. Ways for us to support Black businesses. That's the third key objective. And so that's where, you know, our partnership in Philly with Kenny Gamble's people with ibuyBlack.org, that's where that comes into play. Our partnership with Sharif Abdul Malik, who runs WeBuyBlack.com, you know, things like that. So at the end of the day, it all ties together. And I think that it's important for people to kind of know that, because I don't really want another convention where people come together and hoot and holler and get spiritually sanctified and you know, and all this other stuff. That's fine. That's good. Go to those things. But at the end of the day, if something isn't being built and action plans aren't being implemented, then getting together was a complete waste of time. So not only does that mean that we're building a broad national action plan, yes, we're going to do massive things and take over the world and all these other things. That's going to happen. But I need you individually who's watching here with your family to implement your action plan. Don't worry so much as much about what my master plan is. I need you focused on your master plan. And if my master plan can help inspire yours, then so be it. But at the end of the day, we all got to chip in. We all pick up a shovel. We all build something, and that's what's going to build a community. So, Michelle, let me ask you this. All right, social media. You and I kind of got to know each other maybe about 2011. That's when we became friends.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I know. And I remember that the reason that you that your emails were interesting to me is because you kept sending me information. You kept informing me on, you'd say, oh, well, you know, Twitter's about to do video. It's called Periscope. Or you were like, oh, Facebook is about to change the algorithm and it's going to do blah, blah, blah. And I was like, who's this lady that knows all this tech stuff? And I interviewed you and your husband, Anthony, years and years ago. But then also you just kept sending me all this information. And I started noticing that you actually have groups where you work, you just talk about, you know, branding globally through live stream. I think that's the name of one of your groups.
On Facebook.
You seem to know things before they happen. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So like I said, I love technology. Technology is just one of the things where books and technology, that's my thing. Where women like other things, that's my lane, right? And one day my daughter was sick, and so she was asleep on my lap, and I was just kind of scrolling through new apps. Because one thing I do probably about 3 or 4 times a week, I scroll through the Play Store on Android, and I scroll through the iTunes or the App Store and just see what new tech apps. So you just put tech on the search and just kind of see, and then Periscope popped up. And I always did that. And I used to do it a lot just to find educational apps for the kids. And Periscope popped up and it says some type of live video. I said, oh, live video stream? Let me check it out. So I spent the day while she was sick and she was asleep, just watching people around the world streaming right from where they were at. And I said, as soon as I saw that, I said, you know what? This is the next big thing in technology, live video. Live video that's so simple that it is right in your phone. You can reach out to someone from across the planet from your cell phone. And I created an account, and for 2 days I watched. And then the third day I started doing Periscope. I started periscoping, and then like the fourth day I created the group branding globally. At first it was branding globally through Periscope, but then it wasn't just Periscope. There was quite a few of them that were out there before Periscope, but Periscope did it the best. So I said, you know, everybody needs to know this. Everybody needs to know this information. And for me, I just really wanted to put it out there to the Black community, because we don't know that it's out there, and we're always the last ones to kind of jump on the bandwagon, right? So I made it a point. I said, let me call some influencers and let them know that they need to jump on this live stream right now. So that's when I called you. And I said, listen, I remember I told you, I said, I want to do a video. I want to tell you about Periscope. I called you and I called a couple other people. I said, we have to jump on it now, because then on the back end, you're going to be struggling to try to find a space because it's going to be too noisy. It's going to be too many people there. If you do it right now, you could find a place. You know what Black product really got their start off of Periscope that made them go huge? The soap detergent True.
Mm-hmm.
True was off of Periscope. And as a matter of fact, the video that we did, I have a couple young ladies. One is right in the DMV in Washington, D.C. that started Black Biz Scope. And they're making money from it. So basically Black businesses just went online or just went on Periscope under this one thread. And all they were doing all day long was showing their business, talking about their business under this one handle. And the women were charging them for 15 minutes to be on the handle, $50. So these businesses were paying their $15, right? So, and I wanted you to know that, like, after we did the video, Christine called, you know, she reached out to me and she was like, I just want to thank you in voice, because we wouldn't have known about it for maybe another year and a half. I think we finally really got on board once Facebook Live made it, you know, like a real thing. So I always, you know, I love to learn about technology, understand it. I know technology is something that is forever evolving. So it's not something that you think you got it and so you could put it down and not pay no attention to it. No, you have to do your research on technology all the time, particularly social media.
Wow. Well, you know, you're right. I can think of so many people that went in and made a killing really fast because they were on top of the cutting edge technology. They kind of grabbed stuff before everybody else did. And I just think it's kind of unfortunate that that's not as much a part of our culture. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it without sounding crazy or negative, but you know, we tend to lead the way on the latest dance trends, but when it comes to tech, I'm sitting there thinking, let's be as obsessed about the things that are actually making money and helping people succeed as we are about other stuff. You know, one of my former students, you know, I talked to him, you know, 3 hours ago. He actually did a consultation, you know, and my private consultations are not, they're not, you know, they cost a few $100 just to talk to me for an hour. And we set a price because I can't talk to everybody one-on-one. And my argument is that if your business is serious and your business is real, then you know, a few $100s is not a big deal. And so he reached out and he did the private consultation, and he, you know, it was funny because the reason that the money, he said your fee is actually kind of cheap. And I think it was like, you know, I forgot, I think $400 or $500. I forgot how much, but she charges, my assistant. But the funny thing was, you know, he said, you know, all the, you know, these business experts, they'll charge me $3,000 to talk to them for a while. And he said, I'll pay that. And I said, well, yeah, of course you would. And because if someone can charge you $3,000 and give you $100,000 worth of advice, then that's a good move. And I said, I charge a fee, you know, it's not a high fee compared to everyone else, but I charge the fee as a filter. You know, if you are serious and you really have something that's really working, then then $400-500 is not a big deal to you. But if you're if you're just talking, then that means you still have some ways to go. So anyway, this guy was telling me that he said, I didn't have a ton of money a few years ago, but I took one of your classes and I implemented the technology and I started a business online. And he said we made $250,000 our first year, $500,000 the second year. And he said, I'm really trying to go to the $1 million mark, and it was great because I was sitting there and I was talking to him, and he was Nigerian. And I said, to be real with you, I just really wish, I have a lot of respect for the Nigerian community, because when you look at education, Nigerians tend to take the lead, when it comes to just really embracing, seriousness, serious
Most
stuff.
PhDs that come out of the United States, most PhDs, especially for men, are from Black men, and they're from Nigeria.
Yeah. So, and the thing was, we weren't sitting around talking about LeBron. We were,
Right.
although we could have. I'm sure he, if we had talked, like we would talk about LeBron after that's over with. We weren't talking about 2 Chainz and Future. We weren't talking about Sports Center. Like, we were talking about business and technology. He's talking about computer programming. I knew he knew his stuff. I said, I really wish that African American men and African American people could be as serious as you and I are right now. I wish that this was the norm in the Black community, but I know a whole bunch of people who would probably hear 2 Black men sitting here talking and think that we were a couple of nerds. And I think that that's so sad, because this young nerd I was talking to is going to be a multimillionaire, and I ain't doing so bad myself. And it's just, it's kind of interesting. The culture of it all is kind of strange. So, what do you think? I mean, what have you kind of seen in terms of culturally and how we think, and how that kind of fits into, or how that either, affects or reduces our ability to be competitive in a technology-based world that we live in?
So what that just reminded me of was a story regarding the branding globally through live stream, the Facebook group. So when I first started it, I literally put 300 people, businesses, Black or brown people, businesses that I knew either had brands, had companies that I thought could use the technology. And none of them